Paper, yeah. It's our time. One love. Hope y'all are doing great. It's your boy Paperboy Prince. Um, so black people went from boycotting the NFL to celebrating NFL numbers. Man, there's so much to touch on this topic. And first off, I want to say that I love black people. Black people. That Dave Chappelle skit. I love black people. I love all people. I have a special place in my heart for black people, black American people specifically. But man, I really do love all people. I love all people. Um, and I'm starting that out to say because this is going to be filled with some tough love. And it's about how, basically a boycott used to be one of the strongest activist tools. A boycott used to be one of the strongest activist tools in America. I'm not as up on the history of other countries, but I know in America, boycotts were very successful, especially during the civil rights movement. There were a lot of boycotts of several businesses. There's, one of the most famous ones is the Rosa Parks, right? Montgomery bus boycott, where folks boycotted the bus systems and to integrate them. And this is actually a good example because they boycotted the bus systems to integrate them so that everyone could use them and have equal access, and some people not have to sit in the back, right? Black people. But it worked. And at the time, I found out some interesting stuff later that there were actually a lot of black bus, because of the segregation, there were a lot of black bus companies that eventually went out of business because of, you know, once integration was cool, folks want to do what's new and hip, and they're like, oh, this is integration, let's do this. This is cool. So we come back to the NFL. Now, first off, this was already a tough boycott. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. This was already a tough boycott from the beginning. Um, being the NFL and everything that goes on with the NFL, sports. People love sports, man. They love athletics and their teams. There's also like family stuff in there. There's also not great replacements for it. It's one of those things that they have a heavy system and marketing that's set up for you to be a part of this, for you to feel like you're a part of the NFL sports thing. So, so yeah, but that being said, during Colin Kaepernick and if you're not familiar, when Colin Kaepernick came out and decided to take a knee based on police brutality and injustice, and you know, kind of taking a stand against all of this. First off, a lot of companies praised it. A lot of the big major companies, Nike, I think he got a big Nike deal and other things like that. So they wanted to be on the right side of that, which I obviously agree that they were. And the NFL, it tried to not be political, but then it already was political. And, it's weird because now they let players do wear their Trump hats and stuff. But then there was an issue with the kneeling during the national anthem. I don't know. So so then there became a boycott. But what's my larger point? Because I don't want to drag this out too much, honestly, on this video. The larger point is that enter Kendrick Lamar, which I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan. I have seen his show. I mean, for over a decade now. I've seen some of his early shows, listened to his early music. I'm one of those early blog era hip hop fans. So the thing that's weird about this though is that Kendrick Lamar is seen as basically one of the most activist musicians there is. I don't think he necessarily claims to be an activist, but he uses a lot of that imagery and kind of draws on that to make one think he's that way. He's like filling that void. It's being used as marketing. The activist kind of social justice kind of mindset is a part of the marketing plan here. It's a part of the rollouts, right? Which I don't have any qualms with, honestly, except when, because you're, doing this different standard, now what you end up can potentially do is you have to be very careful with that platform, because now, since you're putting yourself out there, at least kind of seeming like using that activist a part of the marketing, right? Using a social justice as a part of your marketing, as a part of your messaging. Now, when you mix that with capitalism, which, hey, everybody has to eat, but capitalism that is anti some of the most core modern movements, then that's when it becomes a problem. I hope y'all are following what I'm saying. And to break that down more simply, what I'm saying is this. One of the most popular modern corporate boycotts was the NFL. It had support from players on the inside. Colin Kaepernick, who was a known quarterback who did well. All of this, the controversy and the protests eclipsed some of his talent and accolades as an actual football player. But he was a pretty big football player. Colin Kaepernick was not like a nobody on the bench. He was a top quarterback. So it had support from people on the inside. It also had support from major celebrities. And then there were a lot of people who are already done, a lot of young people my age, who are already done with sports in the NFL. They're already like, yo, you know what? I have better things to do with my time. If there's a really great play or something that happens anyway, I'll catch the clip on my phone at some point. I don't need to watch the NFL. I don't need to support it and add more into it. So then enter first Jay-Z, right? Who says, oh, now I'll do the halftime show with his group Rock Nation or something like that. They end up being a part of the Super Bowl halftime show, or doing something with the culture, which we'll come back to that. It's like, wait. So once Jay-Z came in and started to do the halftime show, that marked the end of the NFL boycott, because he's somebody who was such a respected voice in black culture, modern black culture. Because I think older people, like, that are maybe actually Jay-Z's age, his word doesn't hold as much weight. But as soon as you start getting like younger than Jay-Z, he's one of the biggest figures you can get. And so it chipped away at our collective energy and our collective stance. I mean, when you quickly switch over, and there's the clip of him saying, how long are we going to protest? How long are we going to protest? Like, all right, we kneeled, now what? And the now what is this. We get a couple Super Bowl shows with, like, I guess black artists, right? And so now it hooks black people into the Super Bowl back again, when there was actually a pretty good job for a protest. Like, it was scary enough that they had to get Jay-Z, because I really think if it wasn't scary enough, if it wasn't enough of a thing against it on social media, because the driving force was social media. If it wasn't a wave against it, they wouldn't have brought in Jay-Z. They would have kept doing it their own way. They would have not tried to save face in that way. This is my opinion, obviously. And so now you enter Jay-Z, and then we come back to Kendrick Lamar. So I was just saying earlier about how Kendrick Lamar, used the activist kind of energy as a marketing ploy, and also I don't want to understate that he made a lot of great real claims, and art and songs like from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Um, I really like Rich Spirit. I like Count Me Out. Those are two of my, favorite songs off that album. Rich Spirit and Count Me Out. Just sonically, they're dope songs. So, and this is just recent stuff that I'm speaking about. But when Jay-Z starts basically ends the boycott by that partnership, and black people don't really get anything out of it except for entertainment. And then now Kendrick Lamar comes and does a show, and we have this statement that's here, which says black people went from boycotting the NFL to celebrating NFL numbers. And because they got somebody like Kendrick, who, like I said, marketing is around activist energy, right? Because they got somebody like that, it's so easy to be like, have people celebrating it, because a win for him feels like a win for the culture. It feels like a win for activist energy. It feels like a win for social justice. I'm gonna say to basic people. I'm saying people who would think like this honestly are basic, because they see this performative energy, and it's literally a performance, right? So it's impossible for it not to be performative. It's a performance, but people will read too much into stuff like this, and it doesn't do anything for moving the culture forward. Like, I feel like if we had to choose between, and what I mean by that is, if we had to choose between a Kendrick Lamar performance and an NFL boycott that leads to potentially more structural changes with the NFL that, um, focus on a specific list of demands, and we can then carry that energy and use that to say, hey, you see what we did here in the NFL? Now we're going to this major corporation and that major corporation. And when there's stuff that doesn't align with what we stand for, then we're going to take our energy and support elsewhere, or just not bring it at all. Like, that's what I mean when I say it doesn't do anything, because I think performance does inspire folks, and it does speak to folks and reach new people. But when you juxtapose that with being on the brink of a actual successful modern boycott, that's a problem. And now the good thing that came out of this is we can see how they try to fight back. When you do a good boycott, we can see how they try to fight back. A perfect example is they'll bring in Jay-Z, who then can use soft power to bring in a Beyonce, who you can't really criticize Beyonce. And honestly, Beyonce is somebody who normally would be at the Super Bowl if Jay-Z wasn't doing it anyway. And then now you have this Kendrick Lamar situation. I didn't like the performance from a Super Bowl perspective, just because it's the Super Bowl. So I feel like people want to see more stuff going on. Now that I talk about it, I think I saw something that said because Trump was there, they couldn't have pyrotechnics and stuff like that, which makes sense. But yeah, I think people wanted to see more of that. And maybe some of the hit songs. But here we are. And this is, I hope that broke it down some. I hope that broke some of this down some. But you see, now we went from boycotting the NFL to celebrating NFL numbers. And this comment here says, but they want to talk about culture, SMH. And it's funny because this here says is yeah, this Kendrick Super Bowl topic is exposing culture fans versus fans of the culture. Um, you know, and let me see. Yeah, it's exposing culture fans versus fans of the culture. Um, and like people use this imaginary culture thing, like to like try to manipulate people into say, oh, well, you don't understand the culture and like you're not from the culture, which the culture isn't like a Bible. It's not like some uh, clearly defined thing. Like this is something that is like changing at all times. It's different for different people in different areas. America is also a big country, so there's different areas where certain things are acceptable, others where it's not. The internet allows people to be there in their own silos, like, and I feel like it was a beef. It ended in a rap beef, so that is naturally divisive. Like there's Biggie and Tupac. Some people liked Biggie, some people like Tupac, some people like both. But in the battle, they chose with one, or they were upset at both because they didn't like that head to head. And beef just brings that type of energy. So I'm very aware, and I tell folks like, you know, when you start a beef, this is what happens. This is the type of energy that happens. But the culture gets thrown around, and it's honestly rarely helping. It's like, oh, the culture. Like, yo, bro, like, what is the culture actually tangibly doing to improve people's lives and livelihood? Like, are we checking in and seeing what the culture is doing? And you're talking about the Super Bowl. You're talking about the Super Bowl, the one of the most commercial event. I mean, it doesn't get more commercial than that. Like it's the Super Bowl, and like I personally don't think the Super Bowl is a time for a message, and I don't think it's normal to get used to messages coming through channels like the Super Bowl and like being valid. I don't think that's I don't think that's real. I think that like if you're performing at the Super Bowl, you're doing a dope performance. That's one thing. But saying like, oh, we got some revolutionary message through a Super Bowl, like I think you're losing the plot at that point. Anyway, this video has gone on long enough. Um, yeah, dollar sign Paperboy the Prince on Cash App if you want to donate. Um, yeah, new website coming out soon, and like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. We need some more comments in the videos. And yeah, I'm going to be recording a lot more of these, just sharing what I think. So, paper, yeah. All right, one love. Peace.